So these are few key features, winning features. So Pentaho is a lightweight. We are going to study some, I'm not sure today if there is any example, but we have seen in few minutes it has come up. It is scalable, supports clustering. So whatever we are running, that is standalone edition, but it has server edition as well. More than 10,000 plus active community members. In fact, they are continuously growing. Virtually supports all the available data sources. That's one of the prominent feature, and thanks to a lot of efforts put in by community. One can easily upgrade to an enterprise version for dedicated support. So if you really want real-time support, premium support, then you can sign up for enterprise license. So these are the features as far as these are, I would say, business features. Technical features, one we have seen, virtually supports all the available data sources and plus clustering. So these clustering probably you will find in all the large players. They are supporting clustering. But then supporting all the available data sources, that's where they have their own business reasons for not supporting, as well as some technical reasons. If it is IBM, they are going to push their Netezza based system, Hadoop big data system. So obviously they were late entrant to give public support, widely accepted support for connecting different big data systems. So is the case with other large vendors as well. Here's a Annie's question. I sometimes see PDI being referred as kettle. Why is it so? Now, during our discussion, I already mentioned it was old name of PDI, but then kettle is a recursive term. When they started, it meant extraction, transformation, transport, load environment. So kettle, extraction, transformation, transport, load environment, which is a recursive term, just like Linux was a recursive term. So in short, it is kettle, ETTL environment. Now from architecture perspective, we have these components. PDI is a top layer. Under PDI, you have 4 components. Spoon, which most of the time we'll be talking about. We're seeing examples. Then PAN is their command line utility. You can schedule the job. So even though in community edition there is no scheduling feature coming out of box, this is another way to schedule your jobs. Keychain is another tool, command line tool, where you can schedule your transformations. Carte is their server product. So using Carte, you can configure your server and your cluster nodes. So this is, we already talked about. So Spoon is a graphical design interface. You can build your ETL jobs using plethora of available steps or job entries. Again, we'll jobs and transformation. So transformation is a lower layer. On above, on top of transformations, you can have jobs. So it's I would look at jobs and transformation as same, but to give you subtle differences, transformation is constituting multiple steps, whereas jobs, it is containing multiple job entries. Few steps are available as steps only, so there is no substitute, counter substitute in jobs entry. So we are going to study jobs and transformation in detail. So you will be familiar with those terms more at that time. Spoon interface provides a way for you to create complex ETL jobs without having to read and write much of code. For example, if you want to read the data from multiple sources and push the data to target, So without understanding SQL also you can prepare your job. This is main tool. Spoon is a main tool on which we're going to spend most of our time. Anytime you author, edit, run, debug, transformation or job, you will be using Spoon. Basically for running and debugging purpose, there is another provision. You can use pan or kitchen. Those are command line utilities. But for authoring, generally it is not recommended. Practically, I have used authoring for authoring using my Java application. We used to write XML. So this transformation or jobs are nothing but XML. But you will have to get familiar with those terms, those XML structure. PDI architecture. So PAN. So next component of PDI architecture is PAN. We have seen PAN is standalone command line utility. It is used to execute transformation you created on Spoon. So the data transformation engine reads the data. At runtime you can also pass the parameters. It will write the data to various data sources. PAN also allows you to manipulate data. So these are command line utilities. Whatever is possible in Spoon, limited set of features are possible in PAN. But the key feature of PAN is scheduling. With the help of PAN, it gives you a feature to execute your job at runtime, your transformation at runtime. Kitchen, it is used to execute your jobs. So this PAN is used to execute your transformation, whereas kitchen is used to execute your jobs. Again, jobs can be scheduled with the help of kitchen. So you can schedule in your Windows task manager, or if you're using Linux, it can be very well go in cron jobs. The program that executes the job designed in the Spoon graphical interface either in XML or in database repository. So XML is one way, and the second way is if you're saving your task stuff in database, then it will go in repository. Jobs are usually scheduled to run, so we have already seen. So that scheduling is possible using kitchen. So all these are batch files, all command line utilities. It will have two flavors. One is .bat, one is .sh. So depending on your OS, you can use that appropriate version. Carte is lightweight web container. It allows you to set up dedicated remote PDI servers. So you can add nodes in the cluster. You can coordinate jobs across a collection of clustered machines. So there is XML configuration file which is required for Carte to initialize itself, and then it will make a call whether it is a server or it is node. If node, where to connect. It provides similar remote execution capabilities as data integration server. So data integration server is enterprise version, EE version, which is not part of community version, but in community version it is Carte. So in fact, even in enterprise version they are using Carte, but directly they are not exposing Carte. Indirectly behind the scene they are using the same tool. But then they have added some UI related features using which you can do scheduling, security integration, that stuff using BA server. So they have good interface, UI interface, whereas in community version that UI interface is missing. PDI first time running. So we have seen on my machine there are multiple repositories, so you saw those listed here. Okay, so I'm going to kill my application, will execute it again, and we will try adding one more repository. So this is spoon.bat. I'm going to click on that. So it has popped up this splash screen. Now it is loading the data, and then so it has loaded all the libraries into the memory. Now it has popped up this screen. As you can see it here, repository connection. Now we can add repository connection by clicking on this green plus icon. Now there are two types of repository options it is giving. First is Kettle database repository. Second is Kettle file repository. Now the difference between these two is, if you will go for database repository, you can try out this example. You will have to give appropriate credentials of your database and make sure you create a separate schema to store database repository, because it is going to create a lot of tables which will be used by Spoon to bring up your repository into that graphical user interface. So this Kettle database repository is keeping all your data related to your jobs and transformations into database. So it is nothing but store of ETL metadata. The second option is file-based repository, where it is going to persist all your jobs and transformations at specific location which you have configured. File-based repository, the advantage is you can have one NAS drive shared on your machine, and that is been scheduled for taking regular backups, and you can configure your file repository to that shared space. So you have ensured regular backups are taken of that particular location, and whatever work you are saving from your workspace, that is being persisted in that shared space. So that is another way to make sure your work is not lost. So we'll see example of file repository. So I have selected the second option. I will click on OK. Now it is asking me, give me your base repository, base directory. So I will select my computers, then in C. So in Edureka, okay, since I have downloaded examples, so okay, just for example purpose I am selecting tab. Okay, but I will have to show you the jobs also. So okay, here is it. So in D drive I have PDI examples. So this is PDI examples I am selecting. I'm clicking on OK. So you can configure whether you want this to be read-only repository, hide hidden folders. So those are the default features of Windows browser. You have to give some ID which will be referred by Spoon, EDI examples. Not Edureka examples. So this is more descriptive name. Click on OK. So this repository gets added. Now once you click on OK, there's nothing visible as such, but that repository is added. Okay, I have got a question. So Somesh is asking, can we integrate this with SVN repository or any other? there is no direct way to integrate with S1 repository, Somesh, but when you are integrating with your database repository, that is working in a much similar fashion. And yeah, so another way to integrate with SVN like repositories, as I mentioned, all your transformations or your jobs are nothing but XML files. So you can very well commit the your work in SVN, but that is going to be offline process. There is no feature of connecting to your SVN from Spoon. But you can very well, so you do your work in Spoon. Once you are done, you make sure you go to your Windows browser or your SVN client, and wherever you have saved the work, push it to SVN or any repository which you are using. Next time when you start your Spoon, make sure you are syncing up your directory. So if somebody else has committed any work, you can sync up that. So that way you can very well use SVN or any version based repository. This is possible because it is nothing but XML files. Now we have configured this repository to a file. When you click on file and open, you can see only those jobs or transformations which are available in that folder. It's not even giving any way for you to select any other folder. So that way you can restrict your work only to this particular project. Now here you can see two different icons. One icon is basically arrows from all four directions coming together. So that is transformation. Whereas another icon, arrows just revolving around in a square. So that is nothing but job. So that arrow is denoting a flow. And transformation is something you're collecting the data, transforming it and saving at centralized place. So jobs can contain multiple transformations. So as far as hierarchy is concerned, one job can contain multiple transformations. So this is about repository. So the features, basically to define one ETL process, it generates a lot of metadata. Now when we'll run through the examples, you'll see it is not single step process, but it involves multiple steps. So a lot of metadata is involved. So it becomes handy when you're storing it in the repository. And also when if you want to share your work with your counterpart, your peer, then if you are saving at a centralized place, then it can be easily shared. You don't need to copy and send the data through some different channels. So that portability can be maintained. Then, okay, so portability can also be maintained across cluster nodes when you're running in a clustered environment, DI server. The third one is actually you can achieve these four features, four things with the help of repository: central metadata, concurrent access. Now again, concurrent access, if you are going for, you'll have to be very, very careful. Just like SVN, any versioning tool, you cannot, for example, in SVN, there is no explicit locking system, locking mechanism. So there can be multiple commits happening, and then somebody might overwrite somebody else's code, and then you'll have to end up merging the code after post commit. So to avoid that, make sure when you are committing, don't commit before taking updates. Provide an inventory. So that's another tool your manager can see, okay, how much inventory is there, how much work has been putting in. remote execution. So if your job is residing at some remote place and you want to execute it, so that is possible. You can commit from your machine and you can execute the job at remote location. So these two options we have already gone through. Database, file. Database has advantages. It maintains all the data in database, but as Somesh was asking, can we use SVN? So that is better option than database, because in SVN you can quickly go back and see, take that release out. File-based repository, we are going to use that. We have already configured. So this was the example of file-based repository. Now we are going to study the layout. Spoon welcome page we have already seen. By default, it will open this welcome page. Here it gives you a lot of link. See here at the bottom, if you see, even in Spoon, in documentation, it is giving you info center link, then transformation, job steps documentation, and marketplace. So what all things are available. Then getting started. So forum link is there. It seems here they haven't, yeah, so this is a books link. So Pentaho Kettle solutions, not necessary these are only books available. There can be multiple books available, but these are their books which are more popular, and they have some technical partnership, business level partnership also with Pentaho. So they are promoting their books. Meet the Family is the community projects, what is coming up, what is being in the lab under development. Then credits, so who all have contributed, all the names of those folks. Then many reasons to get enterprise edition. So it is going to convince you why you should go for enterprise. So this is 4 tabs in the welcome page, you can see. So repository, as we saw, after configuring, nowhere there is a way to see that okay, I am connected to repository. Now there is something more to that. How to know that? So there is, you click on tools and here is the option repository. When you are connected, it won't show you this connect link enabled, but it is grayed out. You can very well disconnect the repository because you are already connected. You can go ahead and choose explore, so you can see what all is available in the repository. So these are shared object cache. So if sometimes you change something and it is not reflecting, so you can assume that it may have gone into the cache. So you can clear the cache and then execute the job again. You can export the repository very well, or you can import somebody else's repository. So when you click on explore, so it is giving you this explorer view. So you can open from here. On the left side it is navigator type view, whereas on the right side whatever is selected in the left side hierarchy, that subfolders and file elements are shown in the right pane. So typical explorer. In the connections you can see what all connections already configured for that repository. And then this is server related stuff. If you would have configured server, then it will show you here. So these are the features which can be used using Pentaho repository. So exploring your inventory, then sharing it with other repository users, creating new folders. So it is typical navigator view, opening folder or job or transformation from Explorer itself. Then you can also rename or delete that job transformation. You can lock any job or transformation so that nobody else should be able to change it. How do you do that? Okay, I'll have to check on that feature, how to use it. Fine, so I will inform you in our next class about that. Then spoon opening an example from samples. So we will see how to open an example from the samples. So the samples this is talking about samples which are coming with distribution of PDI. For that we will have to connect to PDI samples. So we will close it. We will disconnect this. We are disconnecting this repository and we will connect to PDI samples. So this is the PDI sample I have already created, which is, so in case it is D and it is not 5.1. That is okay. So I am connecting to this PDI samples, and if I will explore, so here are the samples. Now these steps are always in this example it started with double clicking, starting with the spoon. So we have already spoon started. On the fly we disconnected one repository. Now we connected, we updated previous repository to reflect correct file folder location, and now we open that PDI sample repository. Now you can click on file open. So there are two ways to open the job from Explorer or from your repository. One way is you can go to Explorer mode, and from here you can click on transformation. So you can browse and then select the appropriate transformation and open. The other way, which is depicted in the slide, is you click on open, which will take you to folder view or navigation view, and it will list down all the artifacts available in that folder. So here we are selecting add a sequence basic example, which is in transformation. So in transformation it is add a sequence. So let's open it. So it is three-step transformation. First is it is generating rows. So it is static data. Then it is adding a checksum, and then it is adding a sequence. So this is the sample layout. So this example is more to illustrate you what is the layout, what is the step. So as far as layout is concerned, it's typical, just like PID. You have on the top menu, then you have toolbar containing multiple options. Then on the right side you can see perspective, as this is community edition, you only data integration perspective is available. If you would go for enterprise edition, you will get more perspectives. Then on the left side, you can see view tab, where you can see whatever is the workspace, all the steps listed here. If you'll open, so these are the 3 steps. Then the connector which is connecting those steps are called hops, HOPS. So those will be listed here. So one is connecting from generate row to add checksum. Then second is connecting add a checksum to add sequence. You can disable it by single clicking. So if you don't want that link to be enabled, so you can disable it. Again, with single click you can enable it. Then database connection. What database connection this particular workspace is using. So you can see the configuration, how many data sources you have configured. Again, here also, just like reporting, data can be coming from multiple data sources. And this partition schema, slave servers, K2 cluster schemas are, if you're running it in a sharing mode of cluster node. The design tab, so let's go hand in hand. So here perspective we have already covered. In perspective, other than data integration, which is coming in data, community edition, you have Insta view, which comes in enterprise edition. So all these 4 views comes in EE edition. Insta view, which is used to pre-made templates to create visualization. So it is powerful visualization engine. So far it is not released in community edition, or it is Psycho is something which can compete up to certain extent. So it is mainly used to create visualization. Visualize, so test reporting and OLAP metadata models are created in the model perspective using the report design wizard. So this is more like you can visualize your OLAP metadata. If you are connected to OLAP engine, you can use, you can navigate through its data, and using report design wizard. So you can do some kind of analysis before designing your transformation. So that visualization feature is also available in EE. Then model editor. So this, all these visualization and model editor, these features are available in community edition as well, but they are offline features. Like model editor, we have seen PME is one of their offering. Typically at inception phase you will be using that. Design reporting and OLAP metadata models. So you come up with that modeling architecture, come up with logical modeling, and then design your jobs and transformations based on that. You can publish this model on BA server from PDI. That's the feature available in EE. The scheduling, we already seen. This is the feature comes in EE, and you can schedule the jobs. Whereas in community edition, you can schedule it using command line utilities. Then underneath this perspective bar, there is sub-toolbar. So here it is. You can see green button, the favorite button in all PDA offerings to execute. Then you can pause, take a pause if you want to do something else. Then you can stop, you can kill the process. This is preview this transaction. Then if you want to run it in debug mode, you can very well do it. You can replay this transformation. So all these features in toolbar. So most of the time you will be using dialog, debug. We have seen view tab. Now this is design tab. So in design tab, so far in the workspace is transformation. You can see the icon. So using icon you can quickly make out whether this is transformation or job. This is transformation, so all these on the left side in the design tab are steps. This is bunch of steps options available for you in PDI. In fact, I don't think any of the existing player in the market, let it be SAP or Oracle, are giving so many options in the steps. So in fact, they have categorized them, like if you want some step related to input, then categorize, dump everything in the input folder, then output. If you are really looking into big data, then they have separate folder big data. In big data, then they have taken out input output stuff and then put it here, Avro input and Cassandra, CouchDB. So many options are available in big data, and so on and so forth for other areas, other domains as well. In fact, if we'll see this particular option, generate rows. So this must be in input. So this is that generate row. You can see one small little hammer and then grid-like structure. So that is that step. So if I just for demonstration I will drop it. So it has intelligence built in. So it has renamed it to 2. So this is how you can drag and drop those steps. I'm deleting it. So right side is called canvas, where you are designing your workflow. On the view tab, we have already seen it is showing you current artifacts available in your transformation or job. This is the canvas, and all the steps will be visible here. There is no feature of hide as such. So if you have added the step, it will be visible to everybody. You can arrange it depending on your requirement and depending on the flow. So these are the description of icons. This one, so these icons are first on the main toolbar, create a new job. So if you click, it gives you options. You want to create new job or new transformation or new database connection or slave server. Then this is common icon to open the transformation or job. This is to explore the repository. So this option, if you click, it will explore the repository. Then these two, save the transformation or save as. This we have seen, execute the job, pause the job and then stop the job, preview, and yeah, rest we have already seen. Verify transformation is another job which you can click. This one. So there is no warning, no error so far. Yeah, so these are generate SQL needed to run the transformation. If at all, this transformation needs SQL. Then this is, you can explore and you can see what all database connections are available, and you can link this particular transformation to that particular data source. Now how to execute the sample. So we are going to execute the sample. So one way is select the sample step. There are 3 steps we have seen. So select that specific step and click on preview. That way you can just preview this particular step. So if you will click on add sequence, this is the final step, and do right click and click on preview, then we can see this new dialog popping up. It is asking you basically how many rows of data you want to retrieve. Anyways, the generate data is not generating so many rows, so we'll go with the default option. Then do you want to add any breakpoint condition or pause condition? So far, let's go with the default one, and then say quick launch, and it has given you this result, and it has added the checksum as a new column and sequence field as a new column. Now before this, let me show you generate row. What is it generating? So again, in a similar way, if you want to inspect intermediate step, so you'll have to right click on that, click on preview. So it has selected this generate row, and again let's go with the default and say quick launch. So in the input data you have only A, B, C, D, E, only 5 columns and 10 rows. So we're not playing with number of rows, but we are playing with columns. So we're adding new columns. One column is checksum, another column is check sequence. So again I have to close, and I will have to click on add sequence, and I am again going to show you preview. So now it will make you more sense. See, number of rows are constant, but after E it has added 2 columns, checksum and sequence field. So this sequence field 1 to 10 it has added. So many a times, like in our previous example of yesterday, we saw the example aggregating flights based on country. If you want to add that sequence, the running sequence, then you can use this feature. Or many a times you are filtering the data and you want the sequence to be generated dynamically, so you can use this sequence step in those cases. You can see this tick icon got added. It means all these steps got executed successfully. So how to execute? This is one way. You can see preview, then you can select which step you want to preview, and then go with the default and click on quick launch. So this is how you are going to see the preview. And when you're seeing the preview, at the bottom section you can say step matrix. I believe this step matrix is already explained in next slides, so we'll touch base there. So steps, each individual atom here in this complete orchestration of transformation is known as step. Now in our example there are 3 steps: generate rows, add a checksum, and add sequence. Roughly there are over 140 steps available in Pentaho PDI, and they are grouped according to function. We have already seen input, output, scripting, big data, your agile, so on. Each step is in a transformation is designed to perform that specific task. Most of the steps, by the name itself you can make out what that step is supposed to do. So a few steps you would need to read their info center document to understand what that step is doing. Few steps are experimental, few steps are obsolete, but still they have kept it in the distribution. So you'll have to be very, very cautious when you're especially dealing with deprecated steps or experimental steps. So if you see here, see here experimental. So these two steps are experimental. Here few steps are deprecated. So deprecated steps, so far they don't have plan to remove it from the distribution, but you never know. So that is going to be marketing decision plus technical decision. If at all it got removed, then and you want to upgrade to newer version for the sake of using new features, then that will be forceful migration, and you will end up updating your existing transformations and jobs to make sure they are forward compatible or new version compliant. So steps can be configured to perform the tasks you require. These connectors are known as hops. Each hop has source and target. So as the arrow direction indicates flow, so it is the data is flowing from generate rows to checksum for this first hop. Hop determines the flow of data. So the direction is important. You can change the direction, so not necessary data has to be unidirectional. So one particular step can feed the data to multiple steps. When you run a transformation, each step starts up in its own thread. So it is essentially multi-threaded application and pushes and passes data. So in that case, if you right click on the hop, you can flip the direction, and so in this particular example, because this is not performing any operation, but it is just generating rows, that's why the option is not visible on conditional. But we will see if I can demonstrate that. Okay, this is great. When you right click, you can see the log. When you right click, it gives you the feature evaluation. Whether it is unconditional means regardless of the output of the first step, the next step is going to be executed. So this is what I wanted to show you, that this is another property gets added when you are dealing with jobs. So that's all was about hops. Now let's quickly move to wizard. Now wizard is, up to certain extent, it gives you ease for ETL type of jobs if you want to migrate the data. So now we have already imported OpenFlight's data. I assume you guys must have played with this yesterday's examples. Now we want to create a replica of OpenFlights, the complete database schema, not really table. Then let's see this example end to end. So before that, I want to open this SQL hook, and so you will have to install SQL Yoke, which is pretty handy tool, community edition. So this OpenFlights is there, replica is also already there. Now I'm going to remove this table. So that you will lose all data. Yes. Okay, so it has removed it. Now you'll have to create the database. So these are the steps explained, assuming this is the SQL interface you're using is SQL Yoke. So you'll have to right click and then say create database, create. Oh, so I have already here OpenFlight's replica ready, but this is how you're going to create it. So go with the default database char sets and collations. We're not interested in that right now. Then create a target database. So the same step continued. Now OpenFlight's node in the left navigator list. So right click the airline table to get the context menu as shown in the screenshot. Click the second and copy tables to different host database. So it is just creating outliner. So here from OpenFlights we are just creating schema of airline. Again, this particular job can also be, this particular task can also be executed using PDI, but that would have become more complex example. So being first example, we are keeping it simple. So more table operation, and we want to export duplicate table structure. No, we don't want in the same host or in the same schema. So yeah, copy tables to different host database. And we have selected only airline. This is the connection, and we are going to select open flights replica. So here is that screenshot. Here localhost open flights replica, and we are not going to copy data, but we're just going to copy the structure. So click on structures and click on copy. So it has created table here. Which doesn't have any data. Let's go to the next slide, and now we are going to open the wizard. So this was all pre-configuration which was required. Now we will open the wizard. So it is in tools, wizard, and create. So here you can see create database connections, copy tables, copy table, copy tables. Now we are, for illustration purpose, we will select copy tables. Now on the left side, okay, so we haven't configured data source. So that we'll have to do that. And for that, we can add, if you go in view, okay, so for that purpose, let me disconnect this particular repository and let me connect to our examples repository. Edureka course examples. And let's click on database, sorry, wizard. Okay, so it seems I will have to open blank transformation and then only I can see that option enabled. So here you can see repositories I have already pre-configured for you. you will have to configure it. I will show you quickly. Anyways, we are going to see it in database connection, but for the purpose of illustration, I will show you how to do that. So here, database. Here you can, so you click on new and create one blank transformation. Then on the data source or database connections, do right click on new, or there is wizard also available. I prefer the new. And this is the same old dialog which you have already seen in reporting example. So select general, and then on the right side you will see a bunch of options. You have to select MySQL, and for the illustration purpose, for our first example, go with this native connection. And next on next slides we will see how to configure JNDI connection. Now back to our example. Click on tools, wizard, and copy table. So OpenFlies is the one which we are going to use. The target database. Okay, so target database is missing. So anyways, we'll have to add target database here. So we will add new MySQL native connection name is OpenFlights target. In my case, host name is localhost, database name is OpenFlights target, port number is this, Edureka is the username, password, test. Okay, so as expected, we haven't configured MySQL driver, so it has failed. So now we have to, so I am going to click on OK, so that way that will be saved. I will close it. I don't want to save the transformation, but so I will click on no, and we'll have to copy the database driver. Now we can use the same database driver which we have used in Report Designer. So this was the database driver we have used. Let's go to data connection. You can see multiple revisions. So data integration 4.3, which I am using for my work. And typically, if you have built your transformations, your jobs on previous version, they are not compatible out of box for the next versions, because you might be referring previous reporting engine, and this PDI has built-in reporting engine available in its libraries. And to make it work, you will have to again downgrade that PDI engine as well. So that's the reason I'm still keeping the old versions, but sometime I will plan migration. If you are using cross product features, like in PDI I am using PRD reporting feature, and that's the reason there is dependency, interdependency. So I will have to upgrade both my ETL jobs as well as my reporting templates. Then I can seamlessly migrate. So here in PRD home you will see simple JNDI folder. No, sorry, not simple JNDI. You will see lib folder, and inside lib you can directly dump that. There is no JDBC folder separately available here. And then open Spoon. So first thing, it will load the libraries, then it will ask for repository, and okay, so this is already selected. So and now it is saying in the previous session we had opened transformation 1, but we didn't save it. Now it is saying unable to read. So that is fine, we can ignore. And here we are. Now let's create empty transformation and let's go to view, and it has added this target. Because this target is not really linked with transformation 1, but without opening this, it doesn't give you this database connections list. That's why we had to open it. Now we will go to its, we will explore. That way we can, okay, so it is still saying error connecting to database using blah blah blah, unknown database target R. Oh, it seems there is a typo. So we will edit it. So here is a edit button, edit option. Okay, this R was misspelled, so remove the R and we will test it. Unknown database open flights target. What is the name? Open flights replica. Oh, my bad. So this should have been not target but replica. And boom. So we could establish it. So the first line says okay. Okay means you are through. Now go back to tools, wizard, and the second option, copy table. Click on that. On the left side it is source, on the right side it is target. So left side will select open flights, on the right side we'll select target. Target is the name of the database connection, though schema name is replica. So don't confuse. Click on next. It is saying invalid data source open flights. Okay, so we'll have to go back and ensure open flights connection is not correctly configured. Okay, so because in the example I had configured it for JNDI. Now let me change it to native for the example purpose, and let's test it. It is through, so I'm going to click on OK and wizard, copy tables, open flights, and so for you will have to configure open flights connection first, then open flights target connection second. Once both connections are configured, then you can proceed with the example. And before connection, definitely, yeah, so you'll have to also configure the replica. So you'll have to create that open flights replica schema through SQL Yog and also create structure of that one table. Click on next. So it has fetched all the source tables available. We are going to select airline for the example purpose and we'll click finish. So before that, let me, oops, not new but new tab query editor and select count star from airline. We are interested in open flights underscore replica dot airline. So right now there are 0 rows. Now we are going to finish it. It has created new, again look at this icon. See, this is new transformation. Now this you could have used the steps to create it, but wizard is something user friendly. if you don't know how to configure which step to use, how to add hop, and is there any conditions, so you can use wizard for some simple tasks. Now read from is the step they have added, which is nothing but a SQL step. Simple fire select star SQL. Again, from here also you can see preview. Let's not only select 10 rows. And these are the 10 rows. So few alias is missing, that's why it is null. Write to is where it is dumping the data to target table. So this is a sample step. We are going to go detail in the steps in our next examples. Now how do you execute the job? So one way we have already seen, on the right click you can see the preview. Here also on right click you can see preview. But preview is something if you want to see it on screen, but you want to execute complete transformation in one go without really previewing anything, then this green arrow is the option. So you just click on that. It pops up launching dialog where you can see multiple parameters, whether you want to execute remotely, you want to execute clustered, or it is local. So in our case all the examples are local. Then whether you want to perform metrics, you want to enable safe mode, basic logging. So on console it logs. There are different levels. These are the default variables. These are the parameters if you want to pass. These are the arguments. So let's not change anything. Go with the default. Say launch. And okay, so it is asking us to save the transformation. So we will name copy tables from open source flights source to target and click on OK. So first time, because this is not saved, it is asking us this information. So it is executing. Here in the step matrix you can see it is writing, it is reading the rows and it is writing those records, and now in the state, in the active, you can see now the status is finished. While that particular step is in execution, you can see this dotted square which is moving, which is revolving. So that rotation revolving square is indicating that job is in process, that step is in process. Now both steps are done, so you can see this tick, green arrow, green ticks. Here in the step matrix you can see read from airline. So here the step has actually inputted 5993 rows. Okay, so writing means within step it is writing so many lines, which is nothing but input, and for the next step write to, it is reading from the previous step, because this first step has no previous step, that's why read is 0. For the next step, second step, it is reading from the previous step, which is read from, and it is reading 5993 lines, writing all the lines because there is no filter in between. If there could have been filter, you can filter out unwanted rows, and then for the output it is outputting all the rows. Now we can cross check here. So you can see all 5993 rows pushed to that new table. So these database connections are already mentioned here. We have already done it. We have how to select the source and target. Then we have selected airline. This is the sample job it has created, it has added the sample note as well. Read data from airline and writing it to source replica. So all these dialogues are explained using green arrow. You can execute. It is launching this launch dialog box. Then because this is first time, you'll have to save it, you'll have to name it, and you can execute. So this is total time is the max time of this time column. So in our case it is 9.5 seconds. So depending on your machine configuration and depending on complexity of database itself may be huge. If it is transactional, it may be loaded, so throughput of database is also considered. So that's how it is. In our case it is 9.5 seconds, whereas when this job was executed it had taken 6.4 seconds. In fact, reading purpose, first step itself is taking more time, 0.9 seconds, whereas here it was 0.9 seconds, 0.5 seconds. But the number of lines are same. So different configuration may give you different throughputs. We have seen, okay, so this is the verification step. You are doing it manually. You can add these sequels and put the data of these verification numbers in some database or in some file in again transformation job. So once your ETL job is done, verification job will kick in. It will do those comparative analysis, store the results in some text file or some table, and then once everything is done, you just need to manually check whether all number of records, data points are same or not. That is one level of verification, of course. Data level verification is too deep. You will have to check the data quality, and there are a lot of algorithms that is right now out of scope of this module. So this is union query. You are selecting from source the count and from target the count, and both are matching. And 5993 we have already confirmed it is 5993 here, and even in the source. So if you remove this, replica, and okay, let's add union. So you can see so these are the static columns I'm adding just so that I can get two distinct rows, and I can see my source has 5993, my replica has 5993, so same records. So this is quick verification step. Now the same transformation you can execute from command line. For complex transformations, executing from GUI would be heavy. So basically throughput you may get better from command line, but then for command line you will have to also fine tune. So depending on your parameters, how much memory you are allocating, you can tune it. With the help of command line named pan. So pan is used for executing transformation. You can easily execute the transformation. So these are the bunch of options available with the command line. So rep is repository, what type of repository you are using. So you'll have to give the name of the repository. Trans is the name of the transformation. So with trans option, you'll have to supply the name of the transformation file name. D is the name of the repository directory. Then file is the name of the local KTR file. So KTR is nothing but KTL transformation. So when you save the transformation, in our case we have saved this. So this is nothing but .ktr file. If you will open, go to open, and here you can see just now we have saved this first one. So this is KTR. Here it is not showing extension of the file, but you can see in the type it is transformation, and in the time you can see the current timestamp. Then this is level, so logging level, log file. If you want to dump that log in specific file, so it is showing you anyways on the console, but that all logging will be dumped in that file. This is list transaction transformation, list the transformations in the specified repository directory. So this is more if you want to explore the repository. So list rep is listing all the repositories available. Safe mode, again, whatever is there in the launch dialog, so those few features are available here. You can run in safe mode, so which enables extra checking. Then version, what is the version of my PDI, so that you can check. You can supply parameters using this -param, then param name equal to param value. Max log time output, so how much logging you want to enable. So let's try this transformation in the pan. Now let me go to command prompt using cmd. You type in the run, and I'm here. I want to go to Pentaho. Sorry. Now I want to go to data integration. So that is the default folder. Now pan is the one which we are going to use, and we'll see version. So here version is not used, so let's see the version. So this is the version. The last line you can see pan kettle version 5.1.1.00. Now the minor version is not showing, it seems 752, but 5.1 is the major version. It also shows what is the build date, 2014 and 19 June, also timestamp. And the first three lines, it is showing you using Java Home. Then Pentaho Java Home is nothing but Java Home inherited from that. What is Java Home? So it's, in my case, I'm using JDK 1.7, and then Pentaho Java. So where the Java is coming from that Java Home bin Java exe. Now our example name is pretty long, so let's see if we can rename it. So for illustration purpose, we can go with data migration, or we can rename this to data or ETL job 1. So this is the name. Now let's ensure. So physically, this is residing at the PDI example. So we can also go to that folder physically and make sure that file is there, ETL job1.ktr. So ktr is KTL transformation. Now we are going to execute from pan. So before that we will truncate this. Truncate use the option table, truncate table and table name. So we'll ensure, so the replica is 0. So rather than replica, let's use ETL terms. This is target, this is source. So our source has 5993 and target has 0 rows so far. Now we'll execute this /rep. Now in our case, so /rep PDI examples. In our case, the name is it PDI examples or what? EDU examples. So this can be different. And then transformation name, so /trans and then data migration. So in our case it is ETL1, ETL job 1. Trans and ETL job 1. So you don't need to give extension here. Log file, so let's add that option as well, log file, and we'll give some name, data, so we'll give name as job as well, transformation, so ETL job 1 dot log. That's it. So you can hit enter. So now my ETL spoon GUI is also running. My okay, so it is giving some error. Repositories meta reading repositories XML file. C users merge.kettle repositories.xml. No transformation name supplied. Oh, trans we have supplied. Which one should be run? No repository provided. Can't load transformation. Why is it saying so? Pan is there. Okay, so thanks Trupti for pointing it out. Trupti has spotted my error because my it is trans. So it is transformation, not it is, let me see it again, trans. So it should be TRANS, and that's why it couldn't connect. So rest of the stuff seems fine, and then I'm going to hit enter. So it is reading from repositories. It found a repository, then it is reading from our source, writing the data, and then that's it. So it is completed. So at the end you can see 5993 lines. So the same log will be available. So by default it will create a log in, where is my Pentaho data integration, here, because our folder was this D Pentaho data integration, but you can give specific name. So I'm going to open in Node++, and here is that output. So you can see it has taken more time. In fact, processing ended after 13 seconds. The reason would be because we have SQL Community Edition running, whereas SQL Pentaho PDI is also running, and which in turn is giving less CPU as well as memory to execute. Plus, as I mentioned, you do need to fine-tune PAN itself, so you can allocate more memory to PAN so that it would be optimized. But focus here, it is same. It has read 5993 from input, outputted the same. We can quickly check here. So verification is complete, same source and target. So this is how you can use PAN to fry your transformations. You can also schedule them using Windows scheduler, or for that matter you can also use Carte scheduler, Java Carte scheduler, or cron jobs. So this is the sample output on the console depicted here. Now there are few options how you can customize your spoon interface so that day-to-day basis, day in day out, you are going to use it. You can, depending on your pattern of working, you can enable few options, disable few options. So kettle options allows you to customize properties associated with the behavior. Look and feel is another option which you can change depending on your interest, depending on your eyes. If you feel silver is cooler color, you can use different themes. So in the startup option, such as whether or not to display tips. So tips is another one. If you want daily tips, you can turn it on, otherwise you can disable it. In my case, it didn't ask me and it didn't show me any tip because I have disabled it. To access the options in menu bar, so you can click up that in options. You can see this show tip at the startup, then show welcome page, whether you want that welcome page, because loading time will be optimized. If you disable it, it will load fast. Then database cache. If you don't want to use cache, you are already in experimental stage, then you don't need that cache. So rather than you end up clearing the cache again and again, you disable these options. Last file, because it cribbed, it couldn't open that unsaved file, but it has already cached it, so disable that option. Auto save change files sometimes is useful. You forget, it will automatically save the files, so better to check it. So all these options are available. Only save used connections to XML. In fact, if this would have been checked in the previous case, you might have observed I didn't save the transformation, but I had connected the connection. Now it has saved the connection, though I didn't save the transformation because this option was unchecked. Now if having this option checked, if I will create new connection without saving the transformation, corresponding transformation, it will just discard that connection. So better to unclick. Then ask before replacing objects. So this is confirmation check, replace existing objects on open import. So this is specific, related to specific feature, not necessary you will be using all the features in that transformation. Show save dialog. So when you are closing without with unsaved transformation or job, it will show save dialog. Automatically split hops. So when you will add new step, it will automatically split the hop and insert that step in between. Show copy or distribute dialog. So when you're adding hop, then it will say with corresponding to hop whether you want to copy or distribute. So all these things, not all but most of these things we are going to study in our examples. Show repository dialog at startup. It is checked, that's why it is asking. You might have seen. Ask user when exiting. Just confirmation dialog. Do you really want to exit? clear custom parameter step plugin. So you can, do you really want, so this is a dialog question, do you really want to delete all custom flags and parameters in the dialogues of the steps and plugin? If you don't want, you can check it. So, yes, the custom flags and parameters have been deleted. So this is not checkbox, but each time you can visit here and you can clear all the custom parameters. Auto collapse palette tree. So by default it is true. If you don't want, then it will not automatically collapse. Display tooltips is on. Show tooltips, show help tooltips. Look and feel. So you can configure depending on your requirement, depending on your resolution of the monitor, what type of font, what is that font size, background color. So that way it's pretty much personalized. You can add your personal touch. So obviously these are setting configuration related to your GUI spoon, so you need to restart. So that's what it is giving warning. So all these are explained in detail, so you can go through it. We have already touch based. All of them we have already covered. Here also replace. Yeah, so just this is revision. We have already covered this. Yeah, so this ends our today's session.